They say we should have known better than to fall so deep down into this rabbit hole we found. And I was thinking.
Hi, this is Nikolai, and you're listening to My Dad Rafal, co-host James Jardian, and featuring Mr. Jim Tiller on the one and only Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Plug in, listen up, and enjoy.
Deep into this pool of regrettable situations. Pitch black, think back to the last time that we were happy.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. This is a short. I'm here live at, as in the previous video, live at Zero Trust World, courtesy of the folks at Threat Locker 2025 in Orlando. And I have with me this guy, Rich.
Hey.
We've known each other for quite a bit.
Quite a bit, that's right.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Saw him walking around. I was like, hey, we should...
what a surprise.
We should. Gee, I saw you at a conference, Rich.
Yeah.
What a crazy notion. All right, tell people who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so Rich Latayan.
I'm going to turn your mic over. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Rich Latayan. I'm the CISO for AAA Inc. out of Orlando.
Okay.
I've been doing this quite a bit.
A bit?
And even since we met up in Chicago.
Yeah, you were at TU at the time, right?
Yeah, TU
Yes.
and a bunch of other Fortune 100, Fortune 250 companies.
All right. So what are you doing these days?
What am I doing these days?
What are you focused on?
Building the security program, looking at the strategy and making sure that aligns with organizational goals.
Okay.
Because that's obviously important. And then, as always, my role trying to keep the bad guys away.
Keep the bad guys away. Hey, let's start with the organizational alignment. I've had like 10 conversations in the last 2 weeks about that topic.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means, it means a lot of different things. But I think having an understanding for what your business wants to achieve and then making sure that, in my case, security and technology aligns with that. So, I believe heavily in innovation. And so, we can't stifle that, right, with security protocols and controls and so forth.
I was just talking to a gentleman that we had a very similar conversation. Like, security is great until it gets in the way of business, then it's out of here.
And and then you got to be aware of that.
Acutely aware.
Yes, because otherwise then you have that notion where you're the business of no.
Yeah.
And I always say it's not N-O, it's K-N-O-W.
Oh, I like it.
All right?
Different kind of no.
Yes.
What do you, so obviously you came to Zero Trust World.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on Zero Trust? Just kind of blanket and we'll drill down once something hits interesting?
Yeah, incredible. I haven't heard of this.
By the way, me neither. It's been 5 years. The family's been running for 5 years. I had no idea.
That's what I thought, 3 or 5 years. And someone that I work with alluded to it and got seats and whatever. It's impressive.
Okay.
Outside, the food is amazing.
This is one of the better conference
I was going to say.
I've had.
So I was pleasantly surprised about that. Good topic, good mixture of people here from the practitioners to other leaders.
I think they've made an interesting point in the last day as a company to talk about a part of the market that cybersecurity companies don't talk about much, and that is down market.
Yeah.
All the big ones want to go for those $1 million, 1 million seats, $5 million contracts. And you've got this huge, outside the Fortune 1000, there's this massive row of companies.
Yeah.
They can't afford this stuff.
No.
And nobody cares. And the last guy I talked to said, I don't think they care about us. They don't want to talk to us.
No. It's true. And I think some of the players and the partners here are those middle markets as well. So, and there's plenty of space for that.
There really is. It's a market that it's underserved and unfortunately feels like it's in trouble because these companies have no less threats, but also none of that giant budget.
Yeah, I think a decade ago we talked about the hackers and the bad guys are after the big corporations. Yeah. Well, they have been. Yeah. But since then they've been after the middle markets, small markets.
Yeah.
So
anything like when somebody says zero trust to you, like, where does your head go? I mean, we all know the definition.
Yeah.
You guys know the definition. We've talked about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where does your head go? Like, what are you thinking when somebody says zero trust?
Yeah.
Rich, I want to talk to you about zero trust.
Zero trust. Yeah.
Besides rolling your eyes.
It's like framework. First and foremost, right?
Yeah.
And I see it as almost a parallel to compliance, right? Where you need the framework, and that's what zero trust is. A couple of years ago, someone told me, I've got the solution for zero trust. I'm like, seriously? I didn't know there was a silver bullet for zero trust.
At RSA, I saw a vendor, we're not going to call you out, but you know who you are, that had a all-in-one zero trust solution. I was like, oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's great.
It's like, do you also solve world hunger?
Yeah,
That'd be great.
Yeah. So, no, I think it starts with framework, and this is a good framework. But then it's back to alignment and how you apply things in your organization. Being a CISO for a number of organizations, you could say it's one solution fits all. No, not exactly. And the solutions that you bring into one company is different for another in terms of what that looks like. So for me, it's that. It is a culture. Years ago, it was trust but verify.
Yeah.
And I think now that's even changed into the zero trust where, implicit is not your standard practice.
Yeah, we've changed that. Trust but verify was interesting when things were smaller, were less out of control.
Yeah.
But I think with data moving everywhere, and data is the currency, right? So data moves everywhere. We have cloud, we have now AI, the magical buzzword.
Yep.
We have all these technologies. Data is. It's everywhere.
Is everything.
It's like in your business, data is everywhere.
It is. And the CIA triad, right? And I believe I've written some stuff about this is, we went to the confidentiality was important, right? You got to do the encryption. We went to availability, which is recent because of ransomware, whatnot, resiliency. But I think we're now in the era of integrity because data means everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Corrupt data is just as good as locked.
And sometimes, the traditional model, garbage in, garbage out. Well, there you go. When you talk about AI and everything else, if you don't have the right data sets, it goes to waste.
So from a technology perspective, I'm sure vendors are beating down your door as a CISO to try to sell you zero trust, try to sell you all sorts of things. Where have you found, innovation? Where have you found value from a zero trust perspective?
Yeah, I think, it's not one size fits all, one partner fits all, but I think it's a collaborative work. Trying to get into the heads of some of the different offerings here and seeing what best works for the organization. I think there isn't one particular solution, although I think some of it is folding into, one big umbrella.
It's starting to. It's certainly starting to consolidate a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're seeing that. So, we'll see where it goes because once it collapses, then again, it'll unfold again to.
Yeah, there's that. What do you call it? The accordion.
Yeah.
Collapse, expand, collapse, expand.
Right. And I think we're seeing that again. Yeah.
What's interesting? I talked to somebody this morning. We touched on it very briefly, and that is the notion that breaches or an incident tends to drive, we'll say, loosen budgets.
Yeah.
And gentleman I talked to obviously doesn't want, not something we put on camera, but it was an interesting conversation around what happens when you make a request or you try to put in a project or process, it gets denied. You have an incident. Suddenly it's like, oh no, we need to go do this. I've always been, I've said this a million times, I've always been very weary of buying fire extinguishers while the house is on fire.
Yeah, it's too late.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Buying stuff during an incident or right after seems like a tough time to try to make decisions.
It is. And, in the midst of whatever situation you're going through, you're trying to bring in new products. And we all know that bringing new products, new solutions, enhancing processes take time.
Yeah.
And when you're in the midst of it, there's no room for that. So, proactive, right, is the way to go. And I think some of it really boils down to risk management. So if you do a good job, and that is a lot, to begin with, then I think there's less likelihood of bringing in a fire extinguisher.
Okay. So, you mentioned technology. I don't think it's taboo now anymore to say that folks like you know, security leaders, CISOs, whatever, have a metric beep ton of technology in-house. And there's obviously more to acquire.
Yeah.
Do you feel like at some point you got to go, hold on, I've got a lot of things here. How much of this stuff? Remember these old technology rationalization exercises we always used to talk about?
Yeah.
I used to do as a consultant. Yeah. Are those? Is a time to do that happening again? I feel like we're getting to that point.
Still true, and continuous.
Yeah.
This is something that is big in my group. Is maximizing the potential of the tools and capabilities that you have. Not only in the tools, but also individuals. But on the tools and solution side, you've got to maximize it, because if you don't, well, then you end up with more tools than you can even manage.
Yeah.
So rationalizing is definitely a key thing, and maximizing its capabilities, each and every one of them.
Where are companies, peers of yours, because you sit in these peer circles, where are people spending? Are we going, because it tends to go endpoint, network, endpoint, like it's vacillated back and forth. Where's the smart money going? Is it identity? Is it applications? Is it endpoints? Is it network? Like, where are we seeing the shift?
Yes.
That's not smart money.
Yeah, I hate to say that, because you talked about the violin and stuff.
Yeah.
We're kind of back at that. So, I started out in network security.
Yeah.
And as you see, systems, application APIs, big spend over the last few years. But as you could probably tell, there's a shift back now to network security.
It is. I've seen it.
Having eyes
I'm living
on the
it.
network. There you go, right? So I think we're kind of shifting back that way. Not completely, not looking at the application side of things, but I think it's coming back.
It is interesting, because I think a lot of us are overbought and sort of over the notion of adding yet another agent to the endpoint. You got your asset management, you've got your ID, you've got your EDR, you've got encryption, you've got and you're like, I have 37 agents. Like, this is not manageable.
They have to play together, first of all, so there's some due diligence that's required. But you're right. And it is a big dynamic in terms of how many more agents can you really load?
Yeah.
And so, minimizing that, the consolidation of vendor solutions will help some of that. And to a degree, it can't be helped, but you can certainly do your diligence in making sure the right agents are in your platforms.
That's talk to me about this is a fun topic. Just raw opinion, the rich opinion, not associated with anybody else but you. Talk to me about the consolidation that we see, because you've got individual players, like the innovators, and then you've got the platforms, the consolidators.
Yeah.
Where are people spending money? Like, I know the easy answer is, well, both, but I think we're seeing more on the platform side.
That's interesting. There's certainly a big enough spend for that. I think some of it, too, is around the services.
Okay.
Because
option C, I like it.
Yeah. One thing is, there's a talent shortage we hear about. And to a degree, that's very true. And so, we could do our best to automate. Platforms can do that for us. But at the end of the day, there is a need for some other services. That's fair. And so, I see an uptick in that spend to make sure that we are managing the right platforms and services alike.
I'll ask a difficult question, so this is going to be fun. What's your take on security metrics? Are all the tools you've got generating data that helps you explain, are we more secure, less secure? What does that actually mean to people that you report to?
Yeah, that's very challenging. So the topic that we just talked about, maximizing capabilities, to an extent, there is an opportunity there to justify, to take a look at the risk.
Okay.
However, doing that is a challenge. We all have our day jobs. We all respond to incidents or requests and so forth. So I think it's a big challenge. I really believe that when you focus on the right metrics that count, I say, it goes, it's endless. And you can drive certain initiatives and messaging, up to leadership. but that takes time and that takes efforts and that takes some customization in solutions, services, and products.
I've said before, and some of the people I work with, we implement this, that metrics change. What you report and what you collect changes as you mature as an organization. Yeah. Agreed?
Agree. You have to adapt. That's for
right.
Sure.
So you get very, very operational focused metrics. How many threats did we detect? How many things did we block? Yep. How long did it take to respond? And over time, that changes to something that, because those aren't things you're going to tell your board about, because who cares?
Yeah.
Like, okay, how many, and you can't use the word risk on day one, because nobody really knows what that means anyway.
Yeah, I think the quantification is a big thing. And then, the over rated but very choose KPI for your organization.
KPIs, they're important.
And some will stay relatively static. How fast can you respond to an incident? But then what are those metrics really telling the organization? Yeah. And I think when you drill on that, that's where you hit the home run. Okay. Otherwise, you're just divvying out metrics, and as you know, they can be endless.
Yeah, sure. I've been a part of one of those organizations where you collect, 124 different metrics, and what does any of this actually mean? Is it going up and down, and why?
And then you get that glazed look in everyone's face, and they're like, okay,
on slide 17, metric number 24, they're like, I don't understand what any of this means. Why are we still here?
Yeah, and sometimes I always, as they say, what's the bottom line? Yeah. Right? So I might have 20, 30, whatever pages of metrics, but you know what? Don't bury the headline. Yeah. Come right on, say it, and then go into your
bottom line up front.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Anything that's tickling your brain at the moment? Like what are you focused on as a leader, as a CISO?
Yeah. A lot of it lately is around the risk management side of things. Okay. How do you interpret that into business terms? Right? There's so many math behind it. There's so many other frameworks
math behind it.
Yeah. And so, taking a combination of that, some of the math, some of the science, and then, some of the behaviors, I think is important. And that's probably taken up some of my focus, is being able to properly articulate that to various different audiences.
And any good books you've read?
Any good books? Oh my God!
It would have to be cyber.
Yeah. The thing is, I probably dabble into a few books at a time. Nice. I never finish. Oh. I don't. I have to admit, but I read enough books. A couple chapters. A lot of it, some of it is leadership.
Technical manuals.
Right. What was it? 7 Habits. Yeah. Things like that. Okay. I find those pretty fascinating.
All right. Well, thanks for taking a couple minutes. Hey, this has been fun.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for listening. I hope this was educational. I think we covered a fairly wide range of topics just there. And I'll try to get Rich back on the show for a full session, if we will, at some point. But I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll catch you guys another time, another place on another Down to Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Ciao.
Thank you.
This is Bella. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave my dad a review and share this with your friends. Bye.